Welcome, everybody. The NFL draft is over, which means it's time to look at some 2023 NFL draft grades. I'm Joe with the Game House, and today we're going to go over the AFC East draft grades. All right, as mentioned, we're going to be going over the AFC East draft grades. As a reminder, we'll be going over all divisions draft grades as we go through this. But we're going to get kicked off with the AFC East, and we'll start it off with the Buffalo Bills. We're going to start with this alphabetical order, assuming I can actually put it in alphabetical order the right way. But let's start off with the Buffalo Bills. They're a team that didn't have too many needs coming into this. They're obviously a team who's a contender for the Super Bowl, lost in the AFC divisional round for the Cincinnati Bengals. Just tried to, it seems like in this draft, tried to help out Josh Allen at the start. So let's get it started. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end out of Utah. Like him as a receiver. He's not going to offer much as a run blocker. That could be a problem, but also having another weapon will be very nice for the Bills. And also they might play him in the slot a little bit as a receiver too, which I know won't make him happy for his contract when he's trying to talk about contracts and they're going to tell him he's a tight end, but they play him as a receiver. That'll be weird, but he should be an added weapon for that offense and should make the Bills' offense a little bit better. And then O'Cyrus Torrence, he was my number one interior lineman on my big board for the NFL draft. I think he really helps out that offensive line. I think he's plug and play right now, lots of power. I think he can play and start right away for him. And then Dorian Williams out of Tulane, a guy who can really just chase guys down, has some good coverage potential as well. Won't be going over every single pick that they made, but overall, I give the Bills a B+. They got Kincaid. Well, it wasn't my top 10 tight end available because of the blocking issues. A lot of people did have him as a top tight end in this draft class. You get that weapon for Josh Allen. You know, I guess they could have gone with a different position because they do have Dawson Knox, but I do think they have different plans for Dalton Kincaid. And then you get O'Cyrus Torrence, who's my number one interior lineman, and Dorian Williams, who's a very good linebacker as well. B+ for them. I think they're a team that'll be right there again, trying to compete in that AFC East and even the AFC overall when it's all said and done. All right, the Dolphins are up next. Now, they're a team that had to forfeit their first-round pick as they were tampering with the whole Tom Brady thing. So they didn't have many high draft picks, but they actually did a pretty good job with the draft picks that they did have, right? So they traded one of their draft picks to get Bradley Chubb. The other one's forfeited. Come in and get Cam Smith. Some people said he was a first-round prospect. They're able to get Smith second round. Then they get Devin Achane, who's a running back who's a little bit smaller, but is really fast and quick and can also run in between the tackles. And then at the end of the draft, they get Elijah Higgins, who's a wide receiver who's probably going to change into tight end because he's a little bit bigger. Could be a guy, a project who works out in a couple of years down the road. Probably won't make an impact right now. And then Ryan Hayes, the offensive tackle out of Michigan, played left tackle on these Michigan teams that made the college football playoff the last 2 years, and a very good run blocking left tackle at the college level at least. I like this draft for them considering the lack of draft capital. They really didn't need a corner after getting Jalen Ramsey. They have Xavier Howard. They have Darth Cater out there. This is a very good secondary. They just kind of added him into the mix, so maybe he doesn't start right away, but turns into something when they have to make tough decisions with their money down the road. Devin Achane, I think, is a guy who could maybe take over that backfield at some point. So you have Raheem Mostert, you have Jeffrey Wilson, and we know that they like to change running backs, and that's kind of what they did in San Francisco when Mike McDaniel was there. But Devin Achane, I think, is a guy who, because he's really good with his speed, quickness, receiving ability, you would think he was not very good running in between the tackles, but he can do that too. So I think he could take over that backfield and at the very least have a very good role because you can't just teach that speed. Again, Higgins and Hayes, good picks for where they were, really don't impact the draft grade as much when they're late round picks, but B+ for the Dolphins. They used a lot of the picks to get really good players like Jalen Ramsey and Bradley Chubb, and that's why they are going to compete for the AFC East this year, going to compete with the Bills in the AFC East, and possibly maybe make a run at the playoffs if Tua Tagovailoa can stay healthy. All right, so the New England Patriots, they get a B for me. They started off Christian Gonzalez. They got the number 2 corner on my board, and they actually traded down to get him. They were trading with the Steelers, and the Steelers moved up to get Broderick Jones. They traded down. They still got Christian Gonzalez, who's a very good player. They got Keon White, the edge out of Georgia Tech. Very versatile defensive lineman. Actually played interior defensive lineman a little bit early in his career. And then we get kind of weird with the Patriots. There's Marte Mapu, who's the linebacker safety athlete out of the lower level of college football. He's honestly inexperienced for this, but he's got the athleticism. He played really well at the Senior Bowl. Jake Andrews And Chad Ryland, Jake Andrews, the interior lineman, I didn't think would go that high. Chad Ryland, the kicker, didn't think that was early enough for a kicker. City So, Antonio Mafi. I mean, I got a lot of guys where I just don't really see it. But they did get Kayshon Boutte, who I like is a very good player at wide receiver. There's off-the-field issues with him. There's some athletic testing issues. And then they go Bryce Behringer, the punter. So they keep on doubling down on the specialists here. And you can go on down the list and see the rest of their draft there. What I will say is I think they got some good players here. Christian Gonzalez, Keon White, and that was what holds the grade up to a B. And then they got weird in the middle there with all those picks. Maybe some value in Kayshon Boutte. I think they could have done better. This is a draft that will help them this year with those first 2 picks. But at the end of the day, it's kind of one of those things where you just don't know how much these guys will make an impact when the bigger problem for them is maybe the lack of a quarterback. We'll have to see how Mac Jones does. The lack of outside receivers to help this offense. They did get Mike Gesicki at tight end. They did bring in Juju Smith-Schuster. We'll see how much they help too. But if they don't get this offense going, these defensive picks that they made at the first 3 picks of theirs may not matter as much. So I think it's a solid draft value-wise, at least at the start, and then the middle kind of brings it down, and then maybe the end there with some of those flyers they took late will work out. All right, the last team in the AFC East, the New York Jets. They were a team that obviously traded for Aaron Rodgers. That's why they moved down 2 spots. By doing that, though, they gave up their chance to get Broderick Jones, who the Steelers took, as I just mentioned. What they did after that was they kind of reached on Will McDonald. Some people didn't have it as a reach. I personally did. I thought he was more of a late first-round prospect, and they ended up taking him at 15. And then they get Joe Tippmann, a center out of Wisconsin, very solid player. Carter Warren was maybe a little bit early, the offensive tackle. I really like Israel Abanikanda. He's a guy that I think could have a pretty good role in the NBA, in the NFL. Sorry, NBA. Could have a really good role in the NFL, but he's also behind a lot of these guys who they've been just drafted. So you have, even Zonovan Knight stepped up last year. You have Michael Carter. You have Breece Hall. So just a lot of interesting things going there. Another one of their picks I really liked was Zach Kuntz, the tight end from Old Dominion there. I think he can maybe create an impact down the road. They do have a lot of tight ends they're paying right now, but a guy you picked that late, not expected to really produce right away. So looking at their draft, they get Aaron Rodgers. That's the important thing. I think they would have liked to improve their offensive line a little bit better. Yes, Tippmann's great for the interior. Carter Warren maybe drafted a little bit too early. Maybe could have focused on that in the first round if they wouldn't have traded down. That's what you need to do if you have Aaron Rodgers. You need to protect him. They already got a bunch of his receivers that he's had in Green Bay. A lot of good receivers they already had, like Garrett Wilson on the team. So, I mean, this is an okay draft. They're not gonna. I don't need a C- here, but it's not many teams had really bad drafts. McDonald maybe a little bit early, but he can help that pass rush. You got Carl Lawson coming back from injury this year. We'll see if he can help them. Jermaine Johnson as well on that defensive line. They're a team that can definitely do some damage in the AFC East. It all depends on what the form of Aaron Rodgers is. Is he going to be like he was last year? Is he going to be better than last year? Is the offensive line going to hold up with the injuries? That is what people will be asking for Jets fans. But overall, again, C-, but it's not the worst draft in the world. All right, so let me know what you think of these AFC East draft grades in the comments below. We're going to be back later with some of our other division draft grades as we go on. For now, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next week.